Around election time, everybody is jumping on the green bandwagon, but very, very shortly after any election, the environment gets shoveled to the bottom of the pile. And I think all you have to do is look at their failed policies is proof that they really have no genuine interest in the environment, about protecting nature, about the rights of people, about sustainable development. I mean, look at the golf course policies, the new roads, the water policy fiasco. Well, this island ran out of water, and we still don't have any proper water policies, even at this very late stage. It's time to try something different. The old way isn't working. The idea of a Green New Deal is that instead of spending billions and billions of euros to prop up aging industries that are really looking backwards instead of to the future, that this money would be much more productively spent in revitalizing our economies, making them green. Now, what does that mean? It means moving and supporting, subsidizing renewable energy. For instance, if you look at Cyprus, we could be a model for the world, never mind just Europe. We're a small island, small population. We have sunshine almost every single day. And our solar power production is pathetic. Instead of having big elephant projects like the Polis Road, we could put that money into improving hospitals, having emergency clinics in rural areas. This is part of what we would call the green economy, and also the green collar jobs, as we call them as well, because this will provide employment for people, it provides training, and the most important thing is it provides something really useful to all the community. There would still be development, but it would be at a much more sustainable and manageable level. We would be working within the limits of our natural resources. I'm thinking specifically about, say, water, and not actually destroying our resources like the beaches. I think a green economy, it makes me think of an old slogan that the Greens have been using for decades, which is think globally, act locally. Now what that means is that you would have smaller communities that are self-sufficient. So instead of building masses of big new hotels that depend on massive numbers of tourists to get here, you could have smaller hotels within villages that really are keeping within the local traditions, that you could use old buildings could be preserved and restored for rural tourism. And of course, if you had this, you would have employment for the local people. You could have along the lines of like bed and breakfasts. We're already doing that to a certain extent in Cyprus, but it's an area that really needs to be developed much more. I think when you talk about what does tourism offer to Cyprus, you have to look at more than just the raw income figures, because there are tremendous costs to support these sorts of numbers. So if you think, okay, what you really need to do is to have green statistics of what are the real costs in the economy. So to have all these tourists coming here, we have to build desalination plants to feed them so that they have water, because they're using most of our water. So if you take all the deficits that we have to actually pay for in order to support what people tend to think of as, well, it's a crucial part of our economy, it's actually very, very costly. With a fairer and more just economy, we would have low-scale development that respects the environment and respects communities. We are one of the European Union Green Party members, and we of course participate in regional and national meetings with the Green parties. So of course we have close links with the other Green parties. So we tend to try to vote as a bloc, because of course we have very common policies and issues. There are some differences on some things, as there would be in any country with any Green Party, but I think having a Cyprus Green would certainly reinforce our voice in Brussels for protection of the environment here. Well, the coalition will carry on, of course. We've always worked as a team, and we had a number of candidates who ran on our ticket in the election in December 2006. So what this would mean, if under any event I were to leave my position as PEA councillor, it would go to the next person on the candidate list. They actually have a law here that says you can only see a permit if you have a legal interest. Now, this is in conflict with the European legislation. Now, the government has not yet changed that legislation. There are plans to do it. But I recently discovered that if the legislation is not in harmony with EU legislation takes precedence. So, in fact, we actually have a legal right to see these documents that we're asking for. What we have achieved in PEA is we have a new information office where people can come. We have a new form that they can fill in, putting down all their details about the file number, what application they would like to see. And there is a small fee that they charge for that if you want to have photocopies of the permits. And I think this is a huge step in the right direction. The Euro election is really, it's about more than just winning a seat in Brussels. It's about taking our views forward. It's about trying to get people more involved in politics. I think it's extremely important. And one of the problems we have, not just here in Cyprus, but we see this everywhere, is people get very apathetic and they drop out and they say, what's the point? We can't change anything. Well, I think if you think like that and you sit on the sidelines and you moan, it's for sure you'll never change anything.